True to nature, the sun made a no-show today as its energy-producing abilities were being celebrated in Newcastle. The occasion was the opening of the Hunter's first solar power station, which puts renewable energy back into the grid. An Energy Australia project, the installation on the roof of the restored rail carriage shed in Newcastle's East End, was made possible by electricity users prepared to pay extra for green power.
We're showing the rest of Sydney, New South Wales and Australia that the demand created by little people does count and can influence the way we generate energy.
Energy Australia has invested around $90,000 to get the solar power station up and running. Although only 500 electricity users have so far committed themselves to the Pure Energy scheme, Mr Davies says the project will eventually pay for itself.
Existing customers have funded this, but this is a commercial operation. It'll be paid for out of the premiums that we take from those customers who elect for this environmentally friendly energy.
The solar array is the first of a series of renewable energy projects in the region. A wind farm on Kooragang Island is expected to come online in July. Simone Cobb, NBN News.
Her resume of success stretches around the globe. Michelle Martin has won every major international squash event during the last 5 years. She's a 5 times winner of the Australian and British Opens, and she's had an outstanding 195-week reign as the world's #1. Students at New Lambton Primary School are the latest to learn from Martin's experience. She's trying to spread the message of her sport's appeal.
I get, a lot of enjoyment out of it. Some of the kids that you get involved with, they always make you laugh, and some of the antics they do. So it is good fun, but I think they get a lot out of it as well.
From theory to practice, the afternoon session was spent on the courts at the International Squash Centre, a clinic for the region's promising young players. It's part of an Australian tour. Tomorrow she moves on to Brisbane, hoping to encourage more youngsters into the sport.
That's what we're after, just if it's a handful to start with, and it might grow from there.
And good news for other junior sports people with the announcement that Gateshead High School will expand its targeted sports program next year. High-level coaching, training and support will be given to future stars of golf, soccer, athletics and netball.
The first 3-year phase of the 10-year highway upgrade program is already underway, with major works north of Hexham, south of Coffs Harbour and between Ballina and the Tweed. After criticism from some communities about a lack of consultation, Roads Minister Carl Scully today released a discussion paper to be circulated to all city and shire councils the length of the highway.
How do they want us to spend this money over the next 10 years? What sort of road do they want? So it's important for government. We put on the table, here's a discussion paper. Have we got it right? What more do you expect from us?
The most pressing concern for many towns is whether the highway will bypass them. A total of 20 towns are now under consideration for bypasses. Newly added to the list, Kempsey and the traffic bottleneck of Fredericton on the mid-north coast. The discussion paper also reveals the original promise of 80% dual carriageway between Hexham and the Tweed is under a cloud. The promise now is 60%.
60% is a minimum guarantee. We think 80% is a laudable goal, and there may be some possibility to move towards that as we finish it.
Local communities will now have 6 weeks to respond to the government's draft 10-year strategy. Phil Hind, NBN News.
And I'm sure it'll do some good things for the team.
The weekend rain may have caused hassles for Knights management and the ARL draw, but for the team itself it was a blessing in disguise.
The rest probably did the players good, and as long as it's scheduled reasonably well later in the season, then there should be no problems.
The team to play Balmain at Leichhardt Oval on Saturday is unchanged from the one that missed out on hosting Souths. All players are fit and out to impress Origin selectors. But one thing that's almost gone from last weekend is the memory of that loss to Gold Coast. Malcolm Reilly will remind his players of the game before kick-off.
The Balmain game takes more significance than ever before.
Balmain too have a point to prove, the Tigers coming off consecutive losses in the competition.
They've got about the second best defensive record in the competition. I think ours is as good as anybody's. Unfortunately, as you know, we're one game down. But any team, including Manly, who have gone there, have had a big arm wrestle.
Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Wading through 75 years of annual reports and meeting minutes may not be everyone's idea of fun, but for Betty Kappa, it's been a labour of love. For the past 2 years, the former nurse has been working on a history of the Mater Hospital run by the Sisters of Mercy. Mrs Kappa says her research rekindled old memories.
I could live and, as I said, laugh with the sisters, and as a nurse of 50 years, I could cry with them too, because a lot of the things I read I felt quite emotional about, because it had happened to me too.
What was to be a commemorative booklet soon grew to a 270-page history. 75 years of tender, loving care takes the reader through the changes at the hospital since the first patient was admitted in 1921.
And when you see pictures of the first X-ray area at this hospital to what it is today, it's just incredible.
It also captures the spirit of the hospital's pioneers, with anecdotes and personal accounts of life at the Mater. The book will be launched at the hospital tonight. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
After months of draft plans and discussions, the proposal for a 4-star 190-room Holiday Inn hotel on Newcastle's foreshore has suddenly picked up the pace. Last night, Newcastle Council, by just a single vote, overturned last month's decision to rezone the land, in effect stopping the hotel.
It's a scandalous action by the Greens and Councillor Parsons, who obviously control the council.
Minister for Planning Craig Knowles warned last week he'd step in if Council couldn't make a decision. Council caught his bluff and lost.
There's only one issue for Newcastle at the moment, that's jobs, creation of jobs. This was a $40 million project with 1,000 jobs, and Newcastle Council knocked it back. They need to show some leadership. If they won't, I will.
The important thing is that it adds planning certainty back into the process, and that's what's been missing of late.
The Minister's Department will prepare a regional environment plan to override the local environment plan, but that could delay the whole honeysuckle project by 6 months. An inquiry will also be held into the rezoning application and the concerns of developers and councillors. But most importantly, the decision has been taken away from Newcastle Council. It will now be up to the Minister to consider the development application.
I think it's an act of bastardry. I think the Minister has abrogated his responsibilities as a Minister. I think he's given a jackboot in the face of local democracy.
Lord Mayor Greg Hees denies it's a vote of no confidence in the council, but he sounded less than confident about his fellow councillors.
My personal feeling is that a number of councillors were confused about what they were actually voting on, and that's why I want the opportunity to deal with it again.
Wyong Council pumped $15 million into the revamp of the town centre last year, and it appears to have paid off. Council is tonight set to approve a $20 million apartment and retail complex on the old post office site. The 7-storey block in the Waterfront Plaza is likely to be the first of several major developments at the entrance.
It means we have a future now, certainly along the line as a tourism destination. There's a lot of other competition around. It's certainly up and down the freeway and up into Queensland where the weather's great, but here the weather's great most of the time, and we've got an opportunity now to build our tourism numbers up.
Plans have also been drawn up for a $200 million residential and tourism resort at North Entrance and a high-rise building on the quayside. Developers are also keen to build another complex similar to the Eagle Wings block. 20 of the 24 units sold before the block was completed.
The progressiveness of the council is certainly starting to pay off, and I think that the entrance is set to boom here and have a very good future.
And a penthouse in Ocean Parade was recently sold for $685,000, marking the highest price ever paid for a property at the entrance. Covering an area of 70 metres by 40 metres, the event park frame is the largest temporary structure erected on the Central Coast. The stadium will accommodate up to 2,500 people and will cater for sporting and community events, as well as corporate launches and exhibitions. Just weeks away from its first show, there's already strong demand for the facility.
We have a very special announcement coming soon about an event in June, at the end of June, and we have several other shows already booked in with us for this year.
The first event will be the Gem, Craft and Leisure Fair from June 6 to 9. Thousands of people are expected to attend the 4-day event. Harold Craig is confident he has chosen the best site.
We looked for 2 years and we were offered many sites, but this one in this area allows us to expand, so as our clients need larger shows, even to a large agricultural show, we can provide a setting for them.
He says the event park will promote tourism in the region and encourage the return of several shows and exhibitions which have left the coast. Jenny Crouch, NBN News.
It's now nearly 3 years since plans were announced for a dross plant at Curry. Those plans attracted a storm of protest from locals concerned over health risks from the plant. Cessnock Council was last night due to give Western Aluminium final approval, but knocked the consortium back after it was revealed the plant design had changed.
Council is looked at it and took the view that 25% variation is enough variation to ask for remediation on it. We're not refusing it, we certainly need that to be clarified.
Councillors believe the altered plans should be reassessed by the Department of Planning. Western Aluminium now says with so much community opposition to the project, Council is using delaying tactics. Concerns have also been raised over the threat of legal action for the length of time Council has taken to consider the plant. Despite the threat, Council says it won't be bullied.
You can't be asked to make decisions under duress and threat of legal action. I think that's totally unfair, and I certainly don't take that view.
Blake Doyle, NBN News.
For 40 days and nights, thousands of budding performers will be on stage vying for an Eisteddfod title. While the competition is open to amateurs of all ages, school students make up the bulk of performers. Organisers overwhelmed by the 5,500 entries and the interest from the community.
We've had excellent crowds and the standard of performance has been very, very high.
Held at a number of venues in Taree, the Eisteddfod aims to give people a chance to express themselves on stage. The judges providing a written evaluation of each act, helping the performers to improve. Ms Tinham says it's an invaluable experience to give those involved a range of new skills.
The camaraderie backstage is excellent between the competitors. There's no nastiness, I'll use that word, between the competitors.
With the organ and dance divisions completed, it was speech and drama. Foster High School entertaining the crowds with the game of life.
It's like the Olympics. Just like the Olympics, you know, each year you think, oh, they can't possibly break any more records, but the standard seems to be getting higher and higher.
Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
It was a gutsy win over Norths after leading 8-5 at half-time. The locals' patience paid off in the second term. The 12-point win pushed the Wildfires to the edge of the top 5, but they've lost Jared Heaney and Andrew James to rep duties for tomorrow's battle with Gordon.
That will have an effect on the team, there's no doubt about that, but when you play with the same team week in, week out, things come together.
Despite the player losses, Newcastle trained well this week and tomorrow's efforts will be focused on defence. The Highlanders boast a strong combination around the scrum base with former Super 12 halves Anthony Eckert and Tim Wallace.
They're able to be dangerous because they're provided a good platform by a strong forward pack. So, I mean, we've got to match them in the forwards and close Eckert down, which should close Wallace down.
University will have the task of closing down the Waratahs in the Newcastle Rugby Union tomorrow, the Tars coming off 3 consecutive wins. In other matches, East's host Maitland, Merewether Carlton play Muswellbrook and Wanderers meet Hamilton. In local league, 2 matches tomorrow, 3 on Sunday afternoon, with the main game between North Nelson Bay and Wests. Both teams need the 2 competition points to keep in touch with NRL leaders Lakes, who have a 3-point buffer on the top of the table. One postponement in the NBN Soccer League while leaders Edgeworth and Western clash in the feature match of the round. The Eagles play the Bears on Sunday. Edgeworth has the home ground advantage while Western comes off a crunching 10-goal victory over Belmont Swansea.
There was a time when, as far as Australia was concerned, Britannia ruled the waves. But in a modern world, the land down under is a long way from the mother country, and visits by ships of the Royal Navy are a rarity. HMS Gloucester has been taking part in a Pacific Defence Agreement exercise in the South China Sea, along with ships from Australia, Malaysia, New Zealand and Singapore. The ship's company of 276 personnel has been away from home for 4 months, and for some there were dockside reunions with girlfriends and wives who've travelled from England to be in Newcastle. For some it's a 2-week stayover before the ship heads to New Zealand. HMS Gloucester, berthed off Wharf Road, will be open for inspection on Sunday between 2 and 4 p.m. The ship leaves on Monday. With VIPs and half the town of Scone huddled under cover, a full day's program got underway in the rain.
It's going to be run in misty and rainy conditions, showery, whatever you want to call it. It's all applicable to Scone today.
Race 6 was the Bima Stud 2-year-old plate over 1,100 metres. The placings 7, 6 and 13, the Quinella $18, the Trifecta $360.30. Race 8 was the Sydney Harbour Casino Scone Cup over 1,600 metres, marking the 50th running of the Cup. The placings 2, 1 and 3, the Quinella $44.90, the Trifecta $2,011.20.
It was a dream start for Newcastle, a penalty goal to open proceedings, followed by a runaway try to Nathan Friss. The fullback added the extras again for a 10-0 lead after only 6 minutes, but with the Highlanders dominating the early lineouts, they soon fought back. Friss continued his scoring spree to make it a 6-point ball game before the locals too found the gap in the posts. Then Newcastle found gaps in Gordon's defence to increase their advantage again. 2010 at the break, the Wildfires put it out of reach early in the second term. And while the Highlanders made the scoreline respectable with 2 second-half tries, Newcastle was never in danger of defeat. Difficult conditions for the final round at Merriweather with the ground heavy underfoot. It was all carry on the fairways as well as the greens. After shooting a 2-over par at Newcastle Golf Club yesterday, overnight leader Julie Swanson continued her solid form. 1 over for the day after 7 holes. A good up and down on the long par 3/8 maintained her advantage over the field. Leading the chase, Belmont's Adele Bannerman. Trailing by 2 after the opening 18 holes, the one handicapper's precise short game helped to come within 1 of the lead early in the round before it all slipped away on the 10th. An uncharacteristic 3-putt opened the way for Swanson until she came to grief on the same green with a bogey of her own. Nelson Bay's Cherie Burns held down third with 2 rounds of 78, but it was Swanson's consistency that helped her to the title, rounds of 75-74, enough for a 2-shot victory.
Retired paediatrician Dr Robert Evans has treated thousands of children for diseases and illnesses, and 30 years ago, asthma was rarely one of them. Now researching a thesis, Dr Evans says he's discovered just how serious a problem asthma has become over the last 50 years.
Well, certainly there's more cases of it, and one sees more problems with it despite better treatment.
He believes the incidence of asthma in children has quadrupled in recent times. Dr Peter Jones at the John Hunter Children's Hospital says asthma is now a common disease.
We probably have as many as 4 children admitted every day during the cooler months of the year with a diagnosis of asthma.
Asthma attacks can still be fatal, but treatment has improved. Adrenaline injections and tablets replaced by puffers and preventative drugs, many of which can be administered at home.
Treatment is much more effective and much safer, and it's much simpler for parents to give their child at home.
While pollution, pollen, dust and infections can trigger asthma, doctors are still unsure why the attacks occur. Researchers at the John Hunter are studying the inflammation of the airways in a bid to better treat the disease. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News. It was to have been a special presentation for members of the city's business club, with Pauline Hanson the guest of honour. But late yesterday, club president Paul Hankinson pulled out of the agreement, leaving the Hanson party fuming.
I think it was a very cowardly or spineless move, where the real issues surrounding Pauline Hanson are being hidden, and the issue that's emerging is democracy and free speech.
Mr Hankinson denies the accusations, claiming the decision was made because of the stringent security required and that no guarantee could be given for the safety of members at the meeting.
It was the only concern. Freedom of speech, we were happy to have her there and to have Ms Hanson put forward her views, but when it came down to the sort of security that we would have had to have in place, it was above and beyond anything we'd ever anticipated.
The visit organiser claims it's an overreaction and says such moves undermine the right to speak out.
If we continue to stifle the debate by allowing protesters to stop her and by not reporting the facts, I think we've held the debate, and when you hold the debate, you destroy democracy.
The member for Oxley will speak at the Civic Theatre on Friday week. So far, only half of the 1,500 tickets to the event have been sold, and organisers say there's a strong chance the media won't be allowed in. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Robert Gibbons took on the top job at Newcastle City Council in January this year after the controversial departure of former General Manager Bill Grant, and it appears 4 months at Council's helm has taken its toll. Mr Gibbons has been undergoing stress-related health tests, at the same time sending a letter to all councillors stating, "I'm simply not prepared to take any more collateral damage. A reporter has asked me if it's true that I'm having heart trouble due to the behaviour of Council. I'm halfway through health tests and will know how much damage has been done."
I've said to him just in recent days, don't try and solve all the problems in one go, because I don't think you'll be able to.
Mr Gibbons was unavailable for comment today. However, Councillor Tate says much of the stress has come from trying to balance Council's forthcoming budget. Meanwhile, another person feeling the pressure within Council is the Civic Upgrade Project Manager. The position to oversee the civic redevelopment has been vacated after the contractor found the job to be more extensive than originally thought.
The project manager role will be picked up in a way which we're developing at the moment, and we'll put that to Council as soon as we can get the details together.
Despite the resignation, developers say it will be finished by Christmas. Blake Doyle, NBN News.
Wherever Pauline Hanson goes, she's greeted with scenes such as this or overwhelming support. Professor Donald Danoon from the Australian National University claims the Hanson phenomena has been generated by a confused society, Australians seizing the chance to vent their feelings and frustrations. Speaking at an intercultural studies conference at Newcastle University today, Professor Danoon said much of the community is still struggling to come to terms with the disintegration of the White Australia policy in the 60s.
White Australia was dismantled without very widespread discussion, and it has left certain numbers of people, particularly older Australians, often feel left behind and left out of the discussions which have produced this outcome.
Achieving a tolerant society, he said, is a slow process. Outbursts of 1950s values reflecting the fact that multiculturalism still hasn't filtered through a large part of the population. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
We thought we'd try the shopping trolley because we're always handling food and giving food out to folks.